operation.
That's something we have to look at. I did talk to Bruce about maybe.
Right. You have it?
That's a good.
No. Pat might have it.
You have a copy of the announcement?
I may have one.
That minute, yeah.
They're in the middle.
Oh, here.
The last one.
Okay. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meeting Acts, NJSA 10:4-6, have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in the new schedule of meetings of the Borough of Spotswood on the Spotswood Borough Council on December 27, 2019. The new schedule is transmitted to the Home News Tribune and the Sentinel. It was filed by the clerk of the Borough of Spotswood and posted in the Spotswood Municipal Building, 77 Summerhill Road in Spotswood, New Jersey.
Councilman Ritchie?
Here.
Councilman Rivera?
Here.
Councilman Malillo?
Here.
Councilman Spacuzzo?
Here.
Council President Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Sealy?
Here. Can we have the engineer's report?
For the capital project status report, the NJDOT fiscal year 2020 local aid program, the borough received a $555,000 grant from the DOT for the 2020 municipal aid program, and we were waiting for the direction from the borough on how you'd like to proceed with the road work. And PSE&G is continuing to upgrade their gas mains. For the Cottage Street area improvements, the contractor is demobilized for the winter and will advise us of when he will schedule to return to complete the project. It also appears that JCP&L and Verizon have completed their utility pole installations, and Comcast has advised us they're scheduling relocating their cable lines to the new poles. For the improvements to Brunswick Avenue and the Karen Street drainage improvements, we've scheduled a pre-construction meeting with the contractor on March 5th, 2020. For the improvements to Adirondack Avenue, the borough received a $242,200 grant from the DOT local aid program for Adirondack Avenue from Hudson Avenue to Burlington Avenue, and we are working on the project design. We have also previously submitted a plan showing the alignment and easement options at the corner of Adirondack and Burlington, and are waiting for further direction from the governing body. And for the DeVoe Lake dredging, we had previously submitted a plan showing a couple of dredging options. One was a 6-foot depth, which would give us a little bit more surface to cover in the lake. The other was a full depth 8-foot excavation to the lake bottom. We're just waiting for further direction from the governing body on which option they would like to pursue.
Questions for the engineer?
The recommendation is to do the 8-foot dredge.
We believe that our recommendation would be to do the 8-foot dredge. It would give us the deepest excavation, and we wouldn't have to go back at a later point to re-excavate that area if we do, or when we do get additional funding. That area would be complete, and we can expand on that area to other sections of the lake.
And the 8-foot is the frontage along the valley.
Correct, and the 8-foot is the
Oh,
the
then he
entire
took me away. I was
frontage.
going to say that. I was going to say that.
So,
Microphone.
anyone
Yeah, the
else?
lake, I mean, it says here, the borough will proceed. I don't see here.
So that's what he was just,
I just said that.
well, he was explaining if we were going to go 8 or 6 feet deep with the dredge.
Oh.
So we're,
Can't even hear them. Yes.
so I think we're in consensus to go 8,
We're going to do the frontage along the vow and do it to a depth of
All
8.
right.
depth of 8 foot.
If that's
Yeah,
what the
good.
council chooses.
The deeper, the better. That's it.
He's gonna
Anyone
need,
else?
he's gonna need an answer to get this to going. I'll
I'm
start
good with the 8 feet.
I'm good with the 8 feet.
I'm good with 8 feet.
I'm also good. You're good with 8 feet, right, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Also, this thing with the Adirondack by Burlington, the diagrams they showed us last meeting. Did we decide on which way we're gonna go?
My only concern, Jose, was, that I asked Bruce last week, was, or last meeting, was the radius of the turn for landscape trailers, boat trailers, and he didn't think it was going to be an issue. So in my opinion, it's whatever the engineer feels is the easiest, per se, so we don't have to acquire property or anything. I think that's the way we go with it,
Okay.
but I don't know how the rest of the council feels.
Yeah, I remember seeing them plans, and I agree with Charlie,
Yeah.
so that we're not, infringing on people's property.
Well, just so the council's aware, we'll still have to get an easement because right now the roadway does extend into that residence property.
Right.
So either way, we're looking at an easement. It's more of if we want to keep kind of a similar alignment that we have now, or if we want to push that alignment out of that residence property.
And I think it was to push it out of the residence property, right? Was the best-
Yeah, well, that's, I had asked,
Gave us.
Right.
Hey, there we go.
the back, I think that's the existing one, Jose.
The back one is the existing one, right?
Yes, so this would be the proposed if we move the alignment out of the residence property, and if you flip to the other sheet, this one mimics almost exactly what is currently there.
It's just taking up there, or 2 feet one way or the other.
Yeah.
But like I said, either way, we would have to get an easement.
It's
either to
less-
clean up that material that's there, or just to get a right-of-way acquisition to be able
Go with
to.
this one, just go with the second one.
Leave it this way.
The way it is,
Go with the second one.
because that, the second one resembles the existing way. I don't have an issue either way, I just,
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought we could get this going.
So then we'll discuss with the borough attorney what we need to do to put that together, put an easement together, and then reach out to the resident and see if they're okay with that.
Anybody else for the engineer?
no.
All right. Ordinance first reading. Public hearing set for March 2nd, 2020. Ordinance 2020-2, an ordinance of the Borough of Spotswood, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 28 Police Department, amending Sections 28-1 Department Established Composition. Resolutions under consent agenda. Copies of the resolutions under consent agenda are available for perusal only on the table. Anyone desiring a copy may contact the clerk after the meeting. 2020-54, renewal of dental insurance for employees of the borough. 2020-55, renewal of curbside recycling interlocal agreement with Middlesex County Improvement Authority. 2020-56, Mayor and Borough Council concur with the recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Committee as to how the HUD money shall be distributed. 2020-57, Borough to become a member of the North Jersey Wastewater Cooperative Pricing System, commencing March 1st, 2020. 2020-58, grievance by the PBA Local 225, a settlement in order to avoid the burden, expense, delay, and uncertainty of arbitration. With the Borough Council ratify and agrees to the settlement agreed, and the mayor is hereby directed to execute the settlement agreement. 2020-59, payment of bills.
Excuse me, Council President, I put the wrong date on for the public hearing for the ordinance. It will
Okay.
be March 16th.
March 16th. Okay, that public hearing will be March 16th. We have 3 proclamations. You want to do yours first?
You want to do the proclamations now or a regular meeting?
Oh,
Yeah, we usually do- yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
All right. All right, so I'd like to have a discussion with the council, and then have the public hear what we have to say. The police department right now is held at 25 people, 25 officers. We have 2 officers right now who are on disability. One is going for his 6th rotator cuff surgery, and from what I understand, they pulled the anchors out of the bone. So, is it possible he comes back? Yeah, but We don't know. The other officer that was involved in the motor vehicle accident was put on leave disability for another 6 weeks with the possibility of hip surgery. And right now, we are bleeding a lot of overtime to cover those 2 officers. I spoke to the chief. They just made their 28-day schedule, and 19 of those include overtime. I believe that we need the new officer to alleviate some of that overtime. That officer would go on the 3 to 11 shift, and that officer would do what these officers can't do at this time. There's a lot of discussion about money and, who's going to do this and who's going to do what, and what happens if both officers come back. If both officers come back, we have an extra officer to fill in when an officer takes vacation or is out sick. I believe that the ordinance should be changed, and we should have another officer on duty. So I want to, we need to try to, I know you can't eliminate overtime. It's just impossible. I don't know a company that can eliminate it completely. So we're still going to have some overtime. We have a lot of projects going on, road projects, gas projects. There's an officer for 4 hours in the morning, and there's an officer for 4 hours in the evening. So we're chewing up a lot of money in overtime, and I think this new officer, once their officer is trained and on the go, will alleviate some of it. I don't think it's going to get rid of all of it, but it's going to get rid of some of it. The other thing is, this will be the first female officer in the town. We already have somebody who is doing dispatch part-time to learn the town. She's already been trained, which means we don't have to send her to the academy. And I think it would be an asset to the department. So I guess I ask the other councilmen what your opinion is, and tell me how you feel.
I met that person. That person put herself to the police academy. She paid for her own academy and everything. We don't have to do specials because when you do specials, in order to become a full cop, you have to get a waiver and you have to send them back to school to get the waiver. Again, and it will be a female officer. And I think it'll cut half of the overtime or majority of the overtime. So
As far as I'm concerned, right now, hiring another officer is probably not the best thing to do. We haven't even gone into the budget yet. We should be looking at the budget, and if there's money there to hire an officer, then we can discuss it then. Female officer would be an asset to the police department, no doubt about it. But we can't replace people that are on injury with new hires. If people leave the department, then we hire them. I've said in the past, perhaps the consideration would be to hire her as a special. She's academy trained, she can work as a special. First opening that's available, she gets moved up to full-time. I would support that 100%. But right now, without having dealt with the budget, I'm not in favor of moving the table of organization up any more police officers. I think we're okay for now. Even with the new hire on there, I don't see where the overtime would be cut dramatically, because you're just going to have people that are still going to be off, people working the road jobs and the overtime and everything else. Is it going to knock a few bucks off? It sure will, but now you have pension, now you have benefits. I don't know that now's the right time to hire somebody else. My feeling on it, I think this should be tabled until we get to the budget and then discuss it at that point.
So I'm in agreement with Ted. I've been looking over the budget since we got the packet, beginning of last week or whenever it was, and at this moment, I don't think it's right time to make a decision to add another salary until we work out the total budget and where we're going with it. I agree that a woman officer would be great for the borough. I just don't think the timing is right now for that.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, so let's open it to the public. We have a motion to open it to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you were almost there.
Just have Diane Barlow, 62 Kane Avenue. Quick question. The overtime and all the living in Clover Estates, we see the cops all over the place directing the traffic. But doesn't, that overtime is paid for by the gas company, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So can we say no to the gas company? We need you here. And so there's no overtime here. But why should the gas company have our officers and we have to pay overtime to the ones we need? Can you say no to the gas company?
I couldn't tell you. Mr. Mayor,
Just curious,
can we say no to the gas company?
because why should we have to pay?
You could, yeah. But the gas company is the one that pays.
No, I know
for the
that, but
overtime.
our officers
Right.
are tied up, and then we might need somebody, so we're paying our somebody overtime.
But again, what you have is, you got one officer right now, okay, who got hit in Helmeta.
Oh, no, I
He's on
understand that.
completely injured. We don't know the extent because of the injuries that he has right now.
I'm just saying, if we need them,
So right now you have, he's out. So out
Right.
of that whole.
He's
so
gone.
He's out. Then you have another officer who was injured on the job, which is, right, rotator cuff.
We
and
listen.
That's the 6th time now.
okay,
So we don't know if he is gonna make a comeback.
right.
But again, now you gotta have, so then 2 officers right there is your overtime.
Right.
So now.
So I'm saying, don't give them to the gas company. Keep them in, put those two in the
You're
town.
still,
But then we're still paying them
you're
overtime.
still paying them overtime.
Remember, right
Remember,
now, when they're working for the gas company, the gas.
They're in
company
on
pays
overtime
them,
already,
and the
but the gas company's paying
reimburses
them.
us.
So the guys who are at the gas company
It's the
are
ca-
guys that are off for the day?
Right, they're off duty,
And if you brought them in,
you're paying them.
you'd have to pay them overtime,
Right.
and these guys had nothing, and we would still be paying overtime.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
Doesn't make sense, but I got it.
I just want to make a, Ray Remus from Mill Boulevard. I just make a comment that Ted brought up, that with the 2 officers that are out on sick leave right now, and the overtime that's involved, they're already working 12-hour shifts, I guess you call it, right? 12-hour shifts, so wouldn't it be feasible just to pay them the overtime, then to hire another police officer right now? I don't know what the starting rate is for a police officer, but you figured them out, it would cost for the new police officer, plus benefits. And if just 1 or 2 of these guys decide they are able to come back physically, then what do you do with this extra police officer?
Well, remember, we had 1 officer retired at full rate,
Yeah,
and we brought 1 officer on,
yeah, right, to replace them.
44,000.
Then talk about the 2 that are out now.
Yeah, well, what
So-
I'm saying is, we had 1 officer leave, went to East Brunswick. We have another officer that retired, he was at full rate, which is like $100,000 a year.
All right.
Okay? He retired, we brought on 1 officer for $44,000. There should still be money left over from the officer who retired at $100,000 to be able to bring on another officer. And the problem is, I understand, I don't want to pay, listen, I'm a taxpayer just like everybody else in the room. I don't want my taxes to go up either. But when it comes down to $200,000 for overtime and $44,000 plus bennies for another officer, which is the best way to go?
I don't know, I was just agreeing, as far as
I understand what.
dollar
everybody's
sign,
saying.
I'm thinking of, how you where do you save and where do you spend that
I
money?
understand that, but if you hire another officer and that gets rid of $44,000 worth of overtime, isn't that worth it?
Well, I don't know what how much the overtime's gonna be, so, I didn't figure it out.
It's budgeted, well, if you think about it, it's budgeted right now for $200,000 for the year. Okay, that's what they're asking for.
All right, so,
And right now, they will eat all of that budget for overtime before the end of the year.
all right, so the ones that are working overtime now, what area are they covering? Like, what are they doing? Just basic coverage as far as,
They're filling in for the officers that are out, and
Okay.
they're on the 3
Because
to
I-
11 shift.
right, because I noticed at the Appleby School, they used to have a police officer there in the morning and in the afternoon. And I don't see the car there for the past couple of weeks now or more. So I was just curious why all of a sudden there's not a police officer there.
That's something I couldn't explain to you. That would be something you would want to talk to the chief about, why he's not there. My only idea is the fact that he's probably pulled to work overtime somewhere.
All right, that's what I'm saying. All
Because
right,
you're covering 4 hours on 3 to 11, and then 4 hours before the 3 to 11.
right.
Cover for those officers that aren't here.
all right. All right, I'm just figuring out the dollar signs where it's cheaper, and I think the 12-hour overtime shifts that they're working temporarily, it's cheaper that way than to hire somebody and then have to pay for medical expenses, their insurance and all that, and whatever, coverage that you guys get, for the police department, so.
All right.
So you're already wasting not putting it into overtime.
I don't know how you guys, I
Already
don't know how the police department
You're
works
already
it out.
spending, what, 200,000 already on overtime.
All right,
Time's inevitable, it's going to continue.
It's going to
How many-
continue, right, but it's not going to be at 200,000. We put another officer in, it's going to cut it down. It's not going to be at 200,000.
depending how long these guys are gonna be out, what I'm saying, so. I stick with Ted, what he said. I would hold up on it for now. All right.
Jackie Palmer, 9 Shupin Street. How many officers are on a shift?
That's something I don't know. I know that there's 16, let me,
How many are required to work a shift?
again, that's not something I would have to ask the chief. I don't have that information.
Anybody else have an idea?
What I do know is that the borough has 1 chief, 1 captain, 1 lieutenant, no more than 5 sergeants, and no more than 17 patrol officers.
Correct.
But I don't know what the shift is that they work.
So
Jackie,
go ahead,
I can only
Ed,
give you the minimum.
that's what I want.
Okay, the minimum is 3 for Spotswood, 1 for Helmetta.
So would that would include 2 officers, a supervisor, 3 officers really,
As I
right? So
understand it, yes.
2 officers. So if we do the math and we are short, we are short almost every shift no matter what with the guys that we have. That's a fact. I know it's a fact because I come from law enforcement always. And what happens is, and Ed, I'm really surprised at you because it becomes a public safety issue. Okay? This is a public safety issue, not for the dollar signs, because I think all of us can think of about $120,000 that we can save in a little bit. But no one's really going there, right? So barring the fact that we're not saving that $120,000, this becomes a public safety issue for the borough residents. Yes, it does become a dollar sign, but simple math will tell us that if we retired an officer at $100,000 and we are hiring somebody at $44,000, that's a deficit of $56,000, right?
But double that between pension and benefits.
Except that the officer also, right, still doesn't matter. But we are paying less money, significantly less money in his salary. The top pay, they had benefits that these officers will never have. They had longevity. They had a whole list of benefits. As these guys start to retire who are at top pay, these guys we're hiring in, and most of them will never see any of those. So we have a cost savings to the borough just because of attrition as these guys who are getting to retirement age are starting to move on. So my question then is, why would we even think about putting our public safety when we have two guys? And historically, Spotswood has always run a skeleton shift. You have midnight, you be lucky you have 3 and 1. Lucky. And to answer Diane's question too, I know that we're pulling in Jamesburg officers to fill some of those jobs for PSA&G, because we can't have our guys working 18-hour shifts. There is not enough manpower for them to work, 4 on the front end, 4, and no offense, but they all have families too. They're working an 8-hour shift, then they're working 4 on the front end, 4 on the back end. Believe me, I've lived it. It's a rough go for everybody. But you're then putting, because they're working that many hours, now you're putting the public at risk. Because those guys, just like anybody else, EMS, nurses, anybody who does a public service like that when they have to work that many hours, you try staying up for 18 hours in a shift. Ted, I know you know what that's like. It's not easy. And so we're going to forsake that, because yet we make other decisions financially in this borough, which, quite frankly, this is the decision you guys are going to hold to? That we're going to put the public at risk in a public safety issue, but you guys are going to hold steady on the dollar amount on this? Come on now. Let's be smart about this. I think you could do better.
Anyone else?
Cheryl Bass, Main Street. On can I talk about what the engineer has already spoken about? The engineer mentioned Verizon. I have a landline from Verizon. I have T-Mobile for a cell phone. Every time it rains, the Verizon landline doesn't work. It doesn't work. I know they're doing this public utility work. Is Verizon going to fix up landlines?
That I'm not sure about. Verizon for this project had to relocate their utility poles.
Cheryl, I think you're better off calling Verizon if you're having an issue, because I
called them.
Okay, because I have Verizon at my home also, and I never have an issue.
I don't either. I have a landline with Verizon.
Yeah, we do too.
So I'm thinking it might just be...
I'm the only one.
Well, it might just be...
You got to get rid of the copper lines. I had the issues till I got rid of all the copper and got Fios in the building.
I live in a condo, so it would have to be all the buildings. It would have to be all the buildings. Okay. So that answers my question with Verizon. They're not fixing up the copper lines. Okay.
Up and gone.
I'll just stick with the T-Mobile. They'll come up with a deal because they're merging with Sprint. Get rid of Verizon. Okay. With the police, you say you have to go to the budget. Cut something in the budget. Look to cut something in the budget that's not so strategic. The safety of the citizens, the taxpayers of this town is what's important. And hire the police officer. The morale of the rest of the force, if everybody's working overtime, everybody is deprived of sleep and rest, to say the least. And if all of them are putting in extra time with all this overtime, it affects the entire force. Hire the extra person, and maybe you can work out a deal that it would be, so to say, temporary until a better forecast is made on the health and improvement of the officers who are currently unable to work at the job full-time. So maybe that could be stipulated in the hiring.
Anyone else from the public? Close. Oh, okay.
I know. I only have 5 minutes. I get it. I'm sorry. Jackie Palmer. Can you explain to me 2020-58? That was the resolution on the settlement agreement with the PBA and the grievance issue. Could you just explain it so we understand it?
I would love to, but I'm not involved in that.
Yeah, I can probably answer it. I think this is a longstanding grievance that was filed in the past. And from what I can gather, it dealt with a salary step placement on the salary schedule of one of the officers in town. And I guess it was resolved between the PBA and the police officer and the borough. So that's essentially what it's all about, Jackie.
So can you explain the STEP program? Like, what I'm getting at is, can you explain this so that we understand what it says? Right, so the borough has a STEP program, the officers are hired
Yeah.
at, there's X amount of steps in the process that they go through to be, to move up through the pay scale, right?
Yeah, this particular officer is going to be placed on step 9 of the schedule, and there's retroactive salaries that are going to be paid in connection with that. There'll be a differential of salary that's paid for a period of time in 2019, and, that's essentially it.
Right, so they essentially grieved where the step was in the process, whether he was hired into the wrong step, or he missed a step, or when the contract was ratified, or whatever, there was a missing step piece there. So this is actually settling that issue with the grievance.
I would gather that's what it's
Okay,
about.
thank you.
All right, I make a motion to close the...
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
During this meeting...
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next council meeting will be Monday, March 16th, 2020. Start time is 7:30 PM. Regular meeting to follow.
Send your,
Yeah. Okay, the notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6, have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given in the new schedule of meetings of the Spotswood Borough Council on December 27th, 2019. The new schedule is transmitted to the Home News Tribune and Sentinel. It was filed with the clerk of the Borough of Spotswood and posted in the Spotswood Municipal Building, 77 Summerhill Road in Spotswood. Oh, I thought you was going to do the attendance.
moment of silence and salute to the flag.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll salute the flag and have a moment of silence and then roll call.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Ritchie?
Here.
Councilman Rivera?
Here.
Councilman Malillo?
Here.
Councilman Spacuzzo?
Here.
Council President Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Sealy? Okay, we have a set of minutes from the caucus meeting of February 19th, 2020.
Make a motion to move the caucus minutes from February 19th, 2020?
Second.
Councilman Ritchie?
Abstain.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Councilman Spacuzzo?
Yes.
Council President Kramer?
Yes.
We have another set of minutes, or regular minutes, from the council meeting of February 19, 2020.
Make a motion to move regular minutes, February 19th, 20.
Second.
Councilman Ritchie?
Abstain.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Councilman Spacuzzo?
Yes.
Council President Kramer?
Yes.
And we have an ordinance on first reading, ordinance 2020-2. First reading, public hearing is set for March 16, 2020. An ordinance of the Borough of Spotswood, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 28, Police Department, amending Sections 28-1, Department Establishment Composition.
I would like to suggest that we table this until we go through the budget. I think that would be appropriate. And then come back and look at it.
I'll second that.
Councilman Ritchie?
Yes?
Councilman Rivera?
No.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Councilman Spacuzzo?
Yes?
Council President Kramer?
No.
Tabled.
Okay.
Okay.
Council President, council members, I'll take a motion to accept the resolutions on the consent agenda, resolutions 2020-54 through 2020-59.
Make a motion, we move 2020-54 through 59.
Hang on one sec, I do have
Correction
a...
on 56.
Yeah, okay, sorry, that's what I was going to bring up too, Jose.
Oh, the 50,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Correction on 56, we're gonna move 15,867 from the demolition of 474 Main Street and put it into safe housing, prepare for low, moderate income.
So on the resolution, there was three denominations of money. If you look, there was $15,867 that was dog-eared in this grant for the demolition of Main Street. We're taking that out of that number and putting it back into the safe housing for
An
repairs.
additional 15,000 for the senior.
So that becomes 35,867.
This will help the seniors, every time we had in there 19,000, a lot of the seniors applied for help for their porch, sidewalks, their bathrooms, stuff like that they couldn't afford it. And this is a grant that's in there, so we felt that that money should go in there to help a lot more seniors.
Great.
So that's what, so now it's gonna be 35, instead of 20, it's gonna be 35,867.
Super.
So I'll amend my motion that 56 is as we just discussed with the changes in it, and make a motion we move them.
Councilman Murphy, why don't we do this? Why don't we just,
Separately?
yeah, let's do it separately. Do
Okay.
54 through 55 and 57 through 59, and then you can vote on 56 with the amendment.
Okay.
So if someone wants to make,
54, 55, 57 through 59.
right.
Second it.
Councilman Ritchie?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Spacuzzo?
Yes?
Council President Kramer?
Yes.
All right, then someone can make a motion on 56 with the amendment as discussed.
Make a motion that we move Resolution 2020-56 with the corrections of safe housing repair for low and moderate income to be 35,867 and senior citizen coordinator 10,000.
Second.
Councilman Ritchie?
Yes.
Councilman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Malillo?
Yes.
Councilman Spacuzzo?
Yes?
Council President Kramer?
Yes. Okay, we have proclamations. Charlie, you can...
Alrighty. National Nutrition Month. Whereas food is substance by which life is sustained, and whereas the type, quality, and amount of food that individuals consume each day plays a vital role in their overall health and physical fitness, and whereas there is a need for continuing nutrition education and a wide-scale effort to enhance healthy eating practices, and whereas our local partners in nutrition at the ShopRite of Spotswood are happy to help our citizens make appropriate choices to enhance their well-being. Now, therefore, Ed Seeley, Mayor of the Borough of Spotswood, together with the governing body, do hereby proclaim the month of March to be the National Nutrition Month in Spotswood, New Jersey, and I encourage all the citizens to join the campaign to become concerned about their nutrition and the nutrition of others in the hope of achieving optimum health for both today and tomorrow. Dated March 2nd, 2020. Ed Seeley, Mayor.
Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day. Whereas registered dietitian nutritionists are food and nutritionist expert who can translate science and nutrition into practice, solutions, and health living. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists have agreed in nutritionist, diabetes, public health, and other related fields from well-respected accredited college, universities, complete their internship and pass an examination. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists use the nutrition experts to help individuals to make unique positive lifestyle changes, and whereas registered dietitian nutritionists work throughout the community in hospitals, schools, public health clinics, nursing home, fitness center, food management, food industry, university, research, and private practice. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists are advocates for advancing a nutritional status of American and people around the world. Now, therefore, I, Ed Seeley, Mayor of the Borough of Spotswood, together with the governing body, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, March 11, 2020, Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day in Spotswood, New Jersey. And I encourage all citizens to encourage and contribution of all registered dietitian nutritionists, and in particular, Mary Rose Andrew, our registered dietitian nutrition of ShopRite of Spotswood, our local partner in nutritionists, and express appreciation for their community and promoting science-based nutrition in the hope of achieving optimal health of both today and tomorrow, dated March 2nd, 2020.
Proclamation of celebration. Whereas Emma Jane Decker has been a Spotswood resident for nearly 60 years, having raised her family in the home she still owns on Burlington Avenue. And whereas this longtime resident has an equally long history of service to our community, and whereas Miss Decker was a kindergarten teacher in both Appleby and Shonley schools for 3 decades, and is still remembered and greeted by name by former students when she shops in town. And whereas Miss Decker has volunteered for a number of community organizations over the years, including having served as Girl Scout leader, a library volunteer, and in 2002 becoming a member of the Board of Trustees, a position she still holds. And in the larger community has served as a volunteer at Hackensack Meridian Health, Raritan Bay Medical Center, and whereas continuing the tradition of her varied contributions to our community today, Miss Decker runs the thrift shop at St. Peter's Episcopal Church, an iconic institution in our borough. Now, therefore, I, Ed Seeley, Mayor of the Borough of Spotswood, together with the governing body and on behalf of the residents of our borough, do proclaim our sincere appreciation for the dedicated service to our community by Emma Jane Decker. Miss Decker is a shining example of the best of the Borough of Spotswood, living love in our town for the last 6 decades. I further proclaim that Saturday, March 14th, 2020 be designated as Emma Jane Decker Day in the Borough of Spotswood as we celebrate her 85th birthday. Dated March 2nd, 2020, Ed Seeley, Mayor. All right, any reports? Any liaison
Yeah, I got
reports?
something here, what the heck. We have to be, All right, let me say it tonight, a little fun, sort of. Going out there Saturday, the 7th of March, go out there cabareting and, have a little dinner and some drinks. That's Saturday the 7th I'm talking about. Before you go out, turn your clocks ahead. Turn your clocks ahead, and maybe even your watch, too. Because you might come in at 2 or 3 in the morning, you know what I mean? So this way, daylight savings time is on a Sunday. So this way, you're already ahead. The clock was ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to say to you. So the 7th of March, you set your clocks ahead. I would do. This way here, you're all right. You can have fun then. The clock's are already set. So that's all I got, Chairman.
I just wanted to report on the Spotswood Education Foundation had their casino night this past weekend, and it was a huge success once again. Just like to thank all the residents and the community that came out and supported us, all the volunteers and all the sponsors that we had. It was a very, very nice time.
For the seniors that don't know about it yet, the Senior Center is doing taxes through the end of the season for residents 50 and older with low to moderate incomes. Appointments are on Fridays only, starting at 9 a.m. through 1:15. You can give the center a call if you have any questions and go over it with one of the ladies in there.
Okay.
The fire department is running a comedy show March 21st at 6 o'clock. It's $50. Also, excuse me?
At the firehouse?
At the firehouse.
Ted,
Oh, you ready?
all right?
Also, I was asked by the secretary of the planning board that they have 2 openings, alternate. So if anybody wants to apply, apply to her. And that's all I have.
The only thing I have is, I expressed my police department thing. Unfortunately, I missed the last library meeting. I wasn't feeling well. But I will have a report to the next council meeting, or the next library meeting. All right,
Hold on, Mayor.
oh, sorry.
You're forgetting. Not like I'm tiny, you can miss me.
Hey, Charlie, tell him I
On the 21st of February, I attended my first ever Girl Scout World Camporee for Central Jersey Movie Night. It was very, very entertaining when there were several scout troops from all over, and they did different countries, dressed in their attire, told of their history. Lasted about an hour and a half, and it was very, very well done. And there were scouts there as young as 4 years old.
Wow.
And they could actually dance in step. I can't do that now. I'm 65. But it was a good night. That's all I got.
Thank you, Council President. Just 2 things. One of them is I will have out to Pat this week a proposed garage sale ordinance. I made some revisions to it, took some comments from the public, reviewed some other ordinances in other towns, and I'll give you a comprehensive garage sale ordinance so you can look at it, but I'll get it over to Pat. And secondly, I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, there are still some property owners who have not responded to the easements on Brunswick Avenue. I have a letter which will go out to these delinquent property owners, basically stating if I don't hear from you within 14 days, that will probably initiate condemnation proceedings, and I'll coordinate that with CME. So
All right, do you know how many off the top of your head?
I'm thinking maybe maybe 7.
Okay.
We actually just got one property owner to sign.
Okay.
Who had been somewhat delinquent, but the remaining ones, I know previous letters had been sent last year, no response, so we'll have no choice but to go forward with that. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, open it to the public?
Motion to open the public?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, everyone. Colleen Ronco, 118 Malth Road. Sorry, I'm a little congested. We had brought up on different occasions now about the American Legion and the fact that the American Legion, moving it over to where the old firehouse is, and then moving that new firehouse over to where that wonderful, luxurious piece of property that we bought is. In doing a little bit of research, one of the biggest complaints seemed with everybody was that we don't have a community center.
You gotta pick the mic up, I can't.
You're not going to be able to hear me. I
Oh,
can't talk.
I'm sorry, all right, I'm sorry.
That's okay, John. I'll try and talk louder. So it was one of the things that was a complaint that was continuously a problem, was that we didn't have any community center like they do in Monroe, or like they do even over here with the, I think it's Crescent View. They have a community center over there. So I went and I pulled a copy of the lease agreement with the town of Spotswood. And one of the things that it says in the lease agreement is, let's see, the lower level of the demised premises shall be maintained as a community center for the benefit of the citizens of the Borough of Spotswood and shall be available for their use. Anybody else aware of that?
What's at the bottom of the firehouse?
No, the bottom of the American Legion.
Never knew that.
Apparently a lot of people didn't know about it because not a single person I asked about it went, oh, we have a community center? They all went, huh? So according to their lease agreement, they do have a downstairs, and that is something that the
So
is
you're
able to
talking
be
about
used.
downstairs underneath
Correct.
the upper level?
Correct. It says, the tenant shall keep, I'll read the whole thing, it's a couple sentences. It says, the tenant shall keep the demised premises in good condition and shall redecorate, paint, and renovate said premises as many times as necessary to keep them in good condition. All erections, alterations, additions, and improvements, whether contemporary or permanent, to the character which may be made upon the premises, either by the landlord or the tenant, except furniture or movable trade fixtures installed at the expense of the tenant, shall be the property of the landlord and shall remain upon and be surrendered with the premises as part thereof, at the termination of the lease without compensation to the tenant. Utilities and services furnished to the demised property for the benefit of which the tenant shall be provided and paid for as follows: water by the tenant, gas by the tenant, electricity by the tenant, heat by the tenant, refrigeration by the tenant, and hot water by the tenant. The lower level of the demised premises shall be maintained as a community center for the benefit of the citizens of the Borough of Spotswood and shall be available for their use. The leasee shall adopt rules and regulations for the use of said properties, which said rules and regulations shall be subject to the approval of the landlord and Borough Council of the Borough of Spotswood. The leasee shall at that time engage in any commercial business, trade, or manufacturing in or upon the demised premises, nor shall any other person, corporation, or association be permitted to engage in so. So I just wanted to point out that, yeah, we have a community center. Sorry, guys.
Where is the downstairs? Is that the banquet room or?
That's the basement.
Basement below it?
It's the basement.
Wasn't aware of that.
Diane Charlesworth, 29 Old Stage Road. Some of you may know that almost 5 years ago I started a knitting and crocheting group in town called Stitch in Time. And originally we started with like 6 or 8 people, women, and now my email list is 22. So over the course of 5 years we've grown exponentially, and we have a lot of laughs while we do good things for other people. And one of the good things that we've done this year is, and in previous years, is make hats and scarves that got distributed through the pantry. And I'm going to make my final delivery to them tomorrow for this winter season, and it'll bring our total of scarves to 110. and hats to 118. But we've also done, in that same time frame, actually in a 2-week time frame, 54 hats for a school for developmentally challenged kids in Piscataway called Bright Beginnings, as well as baby blankets for St. Peter's University Hospital. And now we're starting on our mats made from recycled plastic shopping bags that will get distributed to homeless vets down in Atlantic City at the American Legion stand down in May. So I just wanted to brag a little bit.
Well, it's worth bragging about.
The coolest thing is this. I started this group for a totally self-serving purpose. I was recently retired, and because I'd always worked as an independent rep, I had no working friends in town, and I didn't have any kids that went through the school system, so I didn't have those kind of friends either. I had one friend, my sister-in-law, who lives next door. So that was my goal, to not be lonely and to make some friends. And I have gained 22 sisters in the course of 5 years. And it's the sense of camaraderie and community that we share, and the feelings that we get for doing stuff for other folks, as well as don't think that we don't do stuff for ourselves too, because we do, but it's the most amazing feeling in the world. So if anyone wants to join, Thursdays 1 to 3 at the Senior Center.
So I can also attest to the young ladies that work very hard at what they do, because there's been many meetings in East Brunswick, and everybody sees them here once in a while. That you hear that plarn being made,
Yeah, right now we're
which is plastic yarn that they make out of recycled plastic bags. So
we're like in total mat mode, because the number of women who make the mats has diminished, because they're hard work, quite frankly. When you're making a 3-foot by 6-foot mat from plastic, you develop muscles in your forearms that you never knew you had.
And I can also say that I did ask them if they wanted me to help make the plarn, and I was told absolutely not, because if it's not perfect, we won't use it. So they wouldn't even let me help them.
That's true. So anyways, I just wanted to brag about my ladies.
Diane, is that something that you'd like me to mention to the rec department? I can see if they'd be interested in picking up a program. If you're interested in it, I can mention it to them.
In what regard, Charlie?
Maybe put it in their rec calendar and then...
Sure.
Okay, I'll speak to the rec department.
The more the merrier, as long as they like to laugh, because that's a requirement.
Okay, I'll let them know.
All right.
Thank you very much. That was very nice.
So I didn't complain about anything. It wasn't negative.
And not everybody's spots.
Right.
Not everybody's.
Jackie Palmer, 9 Shupin Street. Diane, proud of you. Good job. Where's Dawn?
Called in sick, from what I understand.
Interesting. So she hasn't been at a public meeting since...
January?
Nope. Let's go all the way back to July, maybe even June of 2019. Right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's pretty close.
And I guess we still find that acceptable here, because she called out sick, she didn't show up, and oh, that's right, she was on vacation last week. So do we, I thought that because I do know that this happens to other people in the borough, I'm sure of it, that they're not allowed to back up any sick days to a vacation. And I know that that is an issue, it's frowned upon at the state of New Jersey as well. When you are a municipal employee, I'm sure, Ted, you know that as well, right? That's what happens. So now we have a woman who we've empowered to get away with just about anything. Whereas everybody else in the borough, if you tried to take a sick day before or after your vacation, you'd likely either lose that vacation time and have to take your sick days, or you best be on your deathbed and have a very serious doctor's note, not one that you went there for a sniffle or your kid had a wisdom tooth removed. So, here's my other question. This year, has she showed up at a planning board meeting?
I believe she has.
So she can go to that public meeting, but she can't come to this one. And again, we still empower her to be sitting in that spot. So we let her harass employees, we take on additional lawsuits, and you guys actually, and this is not to be disrespectful, but it may come out disrespectful, you have the audacity to question adding a police officer for our public safety when we can't even publicly safety our own employees from someone who abuses them. That's great. That's fantastic. Let me skip to something else because otherwise I'll get myself all riled up. What happened with the labor attorney issue?
We have RFPs came in today for a new...
Was that RFP posted somewhere?
I have no idea, Jackie.
Yeah,
I just got it today.
It was posted, I'm sure, it was posted on the township website, so.
Oh, no, it
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
Not on our borough website, it was not.
It was posted, right, Pat? Yeah.
I searched the borough website for it this weekend, and I did not find it anywhere. In fact, I searched for that RFP, and the only thing I had to dig, when I tell you dig, I mean Google search did not pull up anything except December's. I had to go to the home news, look up public postings. Now, is it customary that we only post an RFP for 5 business days? I'm asking, well, from a legal perspective, do we have to post an RFP for a certain number of days?
No, I don't think there's
Okay.
any legal requirement for.
So
you know,
we
the
posted that
number of days.
RFP on the 22nd of February, and it was due back today.
Correct.
So that was 5 business days that was given. And it was not posted on the website, because I looked, and I questioned a couple people, and they looked, and I never found it. So I'm just...
I'm not sure it was posted, right?
Tell the person to post it.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't posted. So you have, so we got, the RFP went out, we have new labor council.
We have 3 people that sent in for that position.
Excellent. I hope they're not the same 3 that we keep saying.
No.
And my last question, do we have an update on 474 Main Street? I know Kevin Mead stood here last meeting and he asked you guys to make a decision and decide what it is, how long are we going to sit with a vacant piece of property that we now own before we have a plan of action. We've been talking about a plan since well, I've been bringing up what's your plan since the day you guys said we're going to buy that property. And that has to go back 8 months ago, 7, 8 months ago. Do we have a plan?
We are looking into it being a new fire.
So how long is this going to take? Like, how long is this going to go on? Is this going to go on as long as the Dawn McDonald issue is going on? Like, are we just going to own this property forever until somebody gets hurt on it?
We couldn't get it done in time for this meeting because we have to, the council has to make it a, you know, I guess an offer, or what is it called, Jose, what we have to do?
First of all, we got to commit to that property.
Right, commit to it.
Well, right, so...
To make it a firehouse, right? Fair?
Yes. Just to answer part of the question.
Go ahead.
Thursday night, I was supposed to meet with Center State, but had a doctor's appointment. I couldn't make it. I had a meeting with him Tuesday night to discuss tearing down the building and getting started.
Center State is...
The engineering firm can handle that.
That's going to handle that property.
Yeah, and Mayor, just to follow up, I think we also had discussed trying to get some kind of concept plan for them as to what could go on that site. So that's really the first step. So once we have that, I think you can probably,
The fire department, if it's going to become a firehouse, they want to be involved in the planning of the building itself, which kind of makes sense.
I would assume that would be the right move to make. I would think so, that they should be.
So Monroe.
Huh?
They think so much of Monroe.
It's, again, we have to turn around and the council itself has to say, okay, this property is going to be used for the firehouse.
Right.
In order for us to turn around, next step will be getting to do some kind of a concept engineering or architect to see how much it's going to cost us what's going to fit there, what's going to meet the requirements that we need by NFPA, OSHA, what's going to be required. Then we could turn around and go after grants, fundings that are out there.
So the first step, Jose, is the decision. So that's my question. When are we doing that? Like, what's the holdup, I guess, of why we're not deciding to say, why is it not?
We were supposed to do a resolution, but apparently didn't get to it. We didn't get to it.
So is there consensus?
Next.
Well, I'm for a firehouse.
I mean, is there a consensus on the council that that's what it's going to be? Or is there still other options on the table? And if so, what are they?
There's no option, no other option that I know of. There was that one option that we didn't like, and that went by the wayside. So as far as I'm concerned, it should be a firehouse, a new firehouse. The old one's just not usable for what we need anymore. It's old, it's been around since 1960. It's time to replace it.
So is that a consensus? Are we gonna, is this something that's gonna come out? Or are we just gonna, again, to Dulcie's point, to everybody else's point, we're gonna keep asking the same question every time we come here. So maybe be prepared.
So Jackie, I do have, if I may, I do have a few questions that I need answered along these lines. Not from you.
Of course not.
So I don't have an issue with that property becoming a firehouse, but my issue is the cost.
Of course.
And I understand that we have to make a commitment to the property to get concepts, to get the next step rolling. So are we able to make that commitment, but not definitely say it's going to be a firehouse? Just because Jackie, I don't know, if we get back and it's going to cost the residents $4 million, I'm not for a new firehouse. I got to be honest with you. If it's that much money, I'd like to put it on a ballot and have the residents tell me that they want the money spent on a fire.
Exactly right.
So I don't have an issue making a commitment saying that we can do our research and get our plans put together for a potential future firehouse. But I don't want to state that it's definitely going to be a firehouse tonight, if you know what I'm saying.
I understand, but you know what my point is we purchased a piece of property, we took away income that was coming into the borough, and we didn't have a plan. So now we have a vacant piece of property that's our responsibility. If somebody trips, falls on that sidewalk, cuts their leg open, winds up with MRSA, and sues the borough, we're responsible, basically, because we own it. So my point is, we still don't have a plan, we still own it, and I would like to know how long it's going to take before we have a plan. So it sounds like there's a lot of steps that have to be done, but they either can't be done concurrently, they can be done, I guess I'm not understanding.
Let me just respond. First of all, the property's only been in ownership of the municipality for maybe 30 days. I mean, I think it was closed at the end of January. I think it's important to see what could fit on that site if it's going to be a firehouse, and obviously taking into consideration from an architectural standpoint what the requirements are for that firehouse. So, I mean, I think that, the mayor obviously is going to meet with Center State. I think he's indicated what they need to provide. And then I think the council at that point can really make an educated decision. But you really need that concept plan first. You got to see if something will fit on that site, what the requirements are for parking, so that's really what's got to happen next.
So let's assume the firehouse doesn't fit on there.
Right, and to fit fire trucks,
Let's assume the firehouse doesn't fit, or it's going to cost us $50 million, and nobody's picking up that tab, then what are we going to do?
Well, I wouldn't make that assumption because it's a fairly large site. So I think it'll fit. Okay?
So if the decision is made that, no, we're not going to spend the money on the firehouse, now what are we going to do?
Everybody has a concept that the new firehouse is going to be like the Taj Mahal of
like
East
Civic
Brunswick or Monroe's, okay? It's not going to be, okay? We're a small town. We need, what it needs is for us to meet the requirements of the NFPA, OSHA, and requirements of fitting our trucks in there, okay? It's pretty bad when you have some piece of your equipment sitting outside in the weather. So that's the issue that we're in thing. And we have our gear going right down a vestibule into our hallway. Now, mind you, our gear, when we wear our gear, when we go into car accidents, we're coming up to fluids. Okay, that's on our gear. So we have oil, transmission fluid, gas, whatever, okay? We're walking with that right by the, inside the building.
I agree with you, Jose,
So that-
100%.
So now, we have to meet the requirement of when we come in, where to our locker room where the gear goes and where to get decon. Okay, right now, we have an issue too. If our gears get contaminated, okay, we get blood on our gear and everything, that gear is out of service. So that means that individual is out of service because that gear has to go out to get decon. So now our nearest place to get our gear decon is Philadelphia. Okay, so that gear is going to be out 2 weeks. So you got a man that's out for 2 weeks because we don't have, again, this is a small borough and we utilize whatever we have and gear and everything like that. And our gear, some of our gears are made for the individuals. So then we have to piece some gear to get that guy in there. But again, sometimes we won't have to. We don't have it. And that's one of the issues.
So it sounds to me like we need the firehouse.
Yes,
So
we do.
again, my question is, and I get it, Charlie, to your point of what it's going to cost, but that is then our responsibility to determine how do we do it in the most cost-effective way? How do we, right? But we first have to decide that this is what we're going to do and commit to it. So I guess the issue is, why is it taking so long to commit to something like that when there's nothing else in the hopper for it? There's no other, unless you're saying that there is, and you know, then you're weighing multiple different ideas. But it sounds to me, meeting after meeting, now that we keep coming, that it is going to be a firehouse, regardless of how or what site plan. I mean, sure, we could build a bazillion-dollar one, or we could build a box that we need, or whatever. There's going to be a huge variance. Same way you build a house, right? You could have your kitchen redone for $180,000. You could have your kitchen redone with Home Depot cabinets for $250 each. It just depends upon what you can budget for. But my question is, when are we going to say we're going to do it?
Well,
we're going to use that
We
property.
got to commit to that property to say.
Well, that's what I'm
just-
asking.
Exactly.
When are you
for the property.
committing?
I said that last meeting. It should be done already. Okay, so like that we could turn around and go out and start applying for these grants.
Absolutely.
Because FEMA has grants out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, state has, USDA has grants for firehouses.
Homeland Security has grants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
we
in
commit
order,
to it
but
tonight?
Oh,
we won't know.
Well, again, in my opinion, it's only been 30 days since we acquired the property. So I think you don't want to rush a decision, but I think my advice to the council is I'd like to see what Center State comes up with in terms of a concept plan, and hopefully that can be within the next 2 weeks or so. Doesn't take them that long.
The fire department did meet with Center State.
Okay, good.
Okay, to
Good.
see if that
Yeah.
would be a feasible place for a firehouse and everything. And yes, it is.
All right, good.
Okay, it does make the turnaround for, we could do drive-throughs and everything like that, makes the room and everything like that for it.
All right. Councilman, what I would suggest is, and I'll give a call to Center State I want to see a copy of, I'd like to push them for some kind of concept plan, site plan.
It's gonna cost us money
Right.
to get that.
Right.
So we have to commit to that
All right.
and say, okay, we need to put money into the budget
Yeah.
for them to do that, that plan. And then once we come up with a plan of how much it's gonna cost us, then we can start applying for all of these grants. Because there is grants out there. There are some grants that are, they're
I know there's
low
one
interest
grant-
rates where at the end, they'll forgive some of it at the end. They'll start forgiving
I
the
know there's a
loan.
grant out there for 55% of the cost.
So long as nothing in the building is made out of wood. Which is easy enough to do nowadays because they make metal that looks just like wood.
Yeah.
In fact, it probably lasts longer than wood because termites don't eat steel.
So, Council President, I'll reach out to Center State, and at least if I can even get a letter from them stating that, based on what Councilman has indicated, that they believe it's a feasible site,
Right.
then I would feel more comfortable, and then you could take it from there, Council. All right, so.
Mr. Mayor.
Sachs. I have one more.
Some of
Go
what
ahead.
you're asking. I've been saying for 5 years, buy the property and put the firehouse there because the firehouse is antiquated. Personally, I'd rather see them put the firehouse and the EMS over there and repurpose both buildings or get rid of the buildings. If the property's big enough to house a few ambulances in it, just make it one spot, everything goes in, repurpose the buildings or get rid of the buildings. Either way.
So, Mr. Sachs, I have another quick question for you. You said, we've only owned the property for about 30 days, although we haven't gotten any money from them since, Q2 of last year, but, because we let that go. Have you, in your, being a borough, council, seen other towns purchase a piece of property at this much money and not have any idea what they were going to do with it?
Well, I don't think it was ever an intention that the borough didn't have an idea as to what they wanted to do with it.
Oh, no, they didn't know.
Well,
Oh, no, they didn't know.
all right, wait, okay.
Before you came, believe me,
All
they
right.
didn't know.
All right, but I will just give you my own experience. Anytime you can acquire property to utilize it for some type of public purpose, and particularly where this property is situated, I think that's a beneficial decision. So, the price is the price. I mean, that was negotiated. It's probably fair market value, but no, I don't see that added. Townships acquire property all the time.
Of course they do. They usually acquire it in the appropriate way. They don't purchase it for...
Oh, no, they purchase it.
Well, if they're
Yeah.
purchasing it, they have a plan for it, is my point.
No, let me just finish. And in other municipalities that I represent, I can also tell you that some of those municipalities have purchased property that have laid vacant and dormant for years.
I'm sure their
All right.
taxpayers love that.
Well, no, not necessarily, but I think something, listen, obviously this piece of property, there is a purpose for it, a public purpose, which is important, and I'm sure in due course, shortly, there'll be a decision as to how it's going to.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a reprieve next meeting. I won't be here, but I make sure that someone in the public brings it up and asks you guys. So maybe write a note that you should actually, are you pointing to Dulce maybe?
Yeah, that lady back there.
So maybe make a note that this is going to come up again.
Not a
All right,
problem.
thank you, guys.
Does anybody get Nixle in here?
Yes, my phone's blowing up.
Yeah, supposedly tomorrow between 7 and 3, there's a bunch of streets that'll have no parking on them. There's a link for you to click on to find out which streets. If you get Nixle, you might want to look into that. It may be one of the streets. I can't click on links with this phone,
Mutual link, I don't have it.
anything.
They were, what, 5 million?
Dinosaur.
Yeah, it's a good dinosaur.
Got updated. Ray Remus from Melnell Boulevard. Getting back to the fire department and fire trucks. I haven't been here in a few meetings, so I don't know if it's been brought up since I haven't been here. But 3 or 4 months ago, we brought up that they had purchased a new fire truck, or they're going to purchase a new fire truck.
Yes.
Have they purchased it yet, or?
Yes.
And it's supposedly it's bigger than the old ones, and it doesn't fit into the fire department?
It does fit into the
Oh, it does
firehouse.
fit into, because I heard
Okay,
last time they said it
but
didn't.
we're doing some modification to the old firehouse, pushing a wall back so like that we could walk behind it and everything.
All right.
Okay.
That's just why I
it
had a
was-
question about it.
That wall was put there a while ago. We're just taking it out again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was questioning because I was curious where they run it. But the
There's
truck,
a couple of things have to be moved. Our pipe that fills our tanks on our trucks has to be moved, and also our rubber vents,
okay.
in which that's the exhaust system that takes out the exhaust out.
Right, right.
They can run it in the building.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just curious. Thanks.
I mean, that's right, not nasty.
Just to follow up on what the mayor said about the Nixles, if anybody lives on Charles Street, Carroll Lane, Rainbow Lane, Bryan Lane, or Sloan Road, between 7 and 3 tomorrow, they're going to be milling and paving.
When are they paving?
Tomorrow between 7 and 3.
Charles Street, Carroll Lane, Rainbow Lane, Bryan Lane, and Sloan Road, between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m.
PSC&G is not supposed to.
I don't
Better not.
think
The
PSC&G.
Nixle says. Temporary no parking the borough.
Huh?
It's one of the jobs you approved this year, I think.
The street
Yeah, but it's not
being
even
built
started
and
yet.
You didn't get
How's
approved.
that doing? How are they doing that?
We didn't get approved.
Unless they want to, Bruce needs to follow.
Sorry.
Jim Wallace, Woodland Road.
We're supposed to take that one.
We had a citizen when We Are Spotswood concerned about sidewalks on Monday. Are there any plans of putting sidewalks in? You know, for the kids coming home from school, he was complaining.
On Monday would be the Cottage Street area.
Yeah, there's no plans to put sidewalks in along Monday.
Because he had also mentioned about crossing guards down there too.
I know that Monday's being,
Excuse me?
Monday's going to be paved.
Yeah, I know that.
But
there's not going to be sidewalks.
Yeah.
That was never.
Because I'm just saying for the kids.
Well, it's only the sections that we did the water main connections on for the Cottage Street areas.
Yeah, I know. I live over there.
Paved.
No.
Somebody was concerned on We Are Spotswood on Facebook. I mean, something to look into. I mean, if you look, there's no sidewalks, you know?
You're right. That's an unsafe street.
Yep.
I'm
just thinking about I told the guy I would bring it up to the meeting. I said, come to the meeting, you know? People are, I don't know. All right, thanks.
I didn't get an Excel. She didn't get it. I just got it.
Gary Wallace, 277 Brunswick Avenue. Before they go for these plans for this firehouse, is it a water situation there? Has that been resolved? Can you put plans in when you don't know if that's been resolved yet?
It's a small area. That's a wetland area in which we're.
No, I think you're talking about water capacity, right?
No, I'm talking
about the wetlands.
I'm talking about the wetlands.
Oh, the wetlands. No
problem.
No problems. No.
Yes.
No problems. It's a very small area,
Okay.
and we're relying upon the expertise of the environmental engineers.
I understand that's where, I understand we need a firehouse, but now you had just said they can get the truck in. I thought that was the problem. They couldn't get the truck into the thing.
No, we could get the truck in.
Okay, then I have a question now is the back room, which is a big ballroom. Is that just the big ballroom still? The back room of the
That's where
firehouse?
we have our training, meetings, and everything like that, yes.
There's no room in there that we can put a new locker room and stuff like that? That's not possible?
Really,
Okay,
because
just
you
might
have to
be
vote
something to
and
think about.
Exactly.
And other situations, I know was brought up across from the Borough Hall right here and inland, because when we put the plans in here, I was on the council, I was on the meeting for this place. And there was 3 or 4 different places we looked at. And we actually just knocked this one down or raised it up, whatever the heck we did. But that's what we did. Because I know we have the fire, well, right now it's a borough yard. Will that fire truck fit in that borough yard? If that's a problem, if the fire truck was a problem. How about the green acres that we have at the end of Brunswick Avenue? Put it there, an old stage.
Again, you have to set your firehouse at a center location so like that you can respond in a timely fashion into different buildings. Right now, structures that are being built now, okay, you would sometimes, the old structures, you have plenty of time to get to the, within a limited time. Now with new structures, time is of the essence.
Well, you can't even get down Brunswick Avenue, but that's not.
Okay, now is the time is the essence to get there. So if you're down here, we're gonna go through more of a traffic and everything like that. We got people right now that don't even get out of the way of the trucks with lights and sirens and air horns going.
Well, I would think Summerhill Road would be easier to get out to Main Street. No?
No. No.
They have tractor trailers go down there. They can make turns easy. I mean.
Not really. They've knocked down a few lights.
Yes.
They've knocked down a few lights because I've gone out there and stood.
It's easier than Main Street when it's backed up. It's easier than Main Street than it's backed up. I just hope they're not jumping into something where there's other locations that might be more beneficial.
Is where it's best to get to wherever we have to get to.
Okay.
Yeah, Brunswick and Old Stage, it's just, you're at the far corner of the town. Nothing.
Yeah, but you're closest to where you're going to be using that ladder truck. Yeah. That's where the tall buildings are right there.
Ladder could be used at any.
I understand we can use any building, but those are the big ones right now, right?
We have setbacks at some of these buildings. Okay, some of these buildings, we have setbacks. I mean, okay, give you a nice, you go up a 65-foot ladder, a
Yes, I
regular
have.
ladder,
I have.
bringing somebody down?
Not bringing somebody down, but I have.
Okay,
Yes.
no, but bringing somebody down on a situation you have a fire and everything,
Yeah.
okay? Now, a ladder, we have setbacks of what? Some of it is what, 25-foot setbacks?
Yeah, some of them.
Okay, so now you put an aerial at the roadway, you just took off that aerial 25 foot.
Or more. if you
Or
do
more,
that rigorously.
or more, exactly. So you might take out, what, 35, 40 feet
Well,
out of that aerial?
How high does that arrow go?
107.
Again, okay, so you took 25, that still leaves you 75 on there, isn't
But
it? I'm
yeah,
just
but at least
saying,
now
I
you
mean,
got an area where you could
Our
down, and
problem
you
is,
could bring them down.
our problem is the senior places.
Right.
I mean,
Well, you got your seniors, you got your churches area.
okay, whatever. I just think, I know, to me, that's more of a, it's easier to get out over there than down here.
No. Because we got trucks coming out of Brunswick and Brunswick is second.
Yeah.
Okay, and what happens there? Coming Brunswick and second, you're coming down onto Main Street, and right there where that little triangle, it's a jam.
Okay, what about Brunswick and Old Stage? The 14 acres or whatever there.
But again,
3
that's
acres.
that's all also wetlands. A lot more wetland in there.
I don't know. Hey, Mayor, I just want to show you. I'm wearing something. You might be right. Thank you very much.
No.
Tom Grzybowski, 304 Brunswick Avenue. This is maybe for Ed, because you're seemingly the only guy who can get any of this done. Saturday morning, March 1st, I'm leaving the Borough Yard. And once again, the same people I've told you all about, year after year, month after month, meeting after meeting, E&R Tree Service with 2 gigantic trucks, with a small truck behind them with a little loader to move material, is on Brunswick Avenue. And where did he go? I followed him into East Brunswick. So I mentioned this at another meeting, and the meeting, I'm not even on the video. That's why I asked about the videos that time. So I'd like to know why this keeps getting taken out when I mention these names. I don't know if it's E&R or RKD is also another violator. One of them is, or a partner in that company, is a Old Bridge police officer. And I told you this. And I think maybe that's why this thing was pulled for gratuitous whatever towards this officer or whatever, because evidently he can break the law with his trucks. Either if it's E&R or it's RKD, it's one of them. But either one of them, these are the violators that usually when I'm coming down those roads that I'm seeing are the ones going into East Brunswick. And I follow them numerous times. And now I'll get another spin on this police officer that you just want to hire, or 2 or 3 or 4. First of all that's costing us money like every other thing in this town. The way I feel, I'm getting screwed. I've been in this town since 1977, and I've been talking about these trucks, and I know numerous people that have the cojones to come up and say something or talk to people have said it about it, and nothing's getting done about it.
Can I ask, what is the truck, I don't understand what the problem is with the truck.
They're over the 4-ton weight limit.
Oh, okay, all right.
All your roads, I'll educate you about something, because it's not even posted in here. Most roads in your residential areas, and most towns, and I'm an old buzzard, I'm 64 years old, and in most towns that I've lived in South River, East Brunswick, and Spotswood, most towns, commercial trucks cannot be parked at your house at night in the residential area. Why would you want that person next to you? So as I pointed out numerous times here, and then finally a few council members saw the point of it, like when I said it hurts your resale value. If you have a guy that's living next to you and one of the offenders was Johnny on the spot, if you bring the truck home and it's parked, are you gonna buy a house next to me? No. Probably not. If I bring a crane home, a big crane, I don't care if it's brand new and it's fancy looking, your little boy's looking at it saying, wow, Daddy, look at that crane, that's great. But do you think most people want that? Let alone what it's doing to the streets. Now, I told this council over and over and over, and I told the police, and I talked to everybody in this place.
And I showed them pictures, I gave them dates, because I do deliveries for Brian's Lawnmower, so I'm all over this town all the time. And when I gave them the stuff, I was accused of, are you harassing the guy? Are you doing this? No. If I go by the bank, or a police officer goes by the bank, as an example, and he sees somebody robbing the bank, is he not supposed to look at that? Because when these trucks turn on your roads, they're ruining them. The engineer, Mr. Koch, explained this to you. That's why Old Stage Road looks like it does, and it's going to keep on doing it if they keep driving on them. Now, we have record guys that go to a yard over in Sayreville. It used to be called Marisat. It's got a new name. And 2 or 3 times a week they go there. They either bring wrecks in there or wrecks out, and they all run off Cranberry Road because Old Stage Road is one of the best connection roads between Cranberry Road and Lower Main Street to go to Sayreville. So they turn off onto Helmetta Boulevard. There's signs posted. I helped get them signs here. I had a guy from East Brunswick that I actually had get some of them signs up that was the sign guy for East Brunswick. And to this day, you'll sit down there and you can watch them. They come off Cranberry Road, they look at you, they put their blinker on, they come down Old Stage Road and do whatever they want. And E&R Saturday had 2 trucks that were definitely well over the limit, and once again, drove into East Brunswick because he's going to do a tree job. Now, the way he should have went, and he's located down by the lake, he should have went down Main Street, congested as it is. That's how it is. You go up Summerall Road, designated truck route. You go up to Ruse Lane, you make a left, and you go down into East Brunswick, and you come back that way. Most real truckers will figure it out. You go the least amount onto roads you can't be on. It's done with measurements or miles. You'll know. If you come in a half a mile from the designated truck road, you're not in violation. And if you have an address that you can go there to do the work, you're legal. But these guys are just cutting through. They use Crescent Avenue, which Crescent Avenue up to the railroad track. And I brought that to their attention how many times. But now BVM got it changed with zoning. But they still go over the railroad track with all the trucks and run Brunswick Avenue, Crescent Avenue, and they do the same thing coming home at night. And they've been through Vaughan. They come down Vaughan with these trucks. They come down Burlington. They come down Adirondack if they're coming home because they don't want to wait for the light. Like you said, the triangle is congested. So they cut through the development, and they'll be passing right by a police officer, and I witnessed it. And they're not pulled over. They're not nothing. But then I get accused of, oh, you're too rough, or you got an axe to grind them. I don't know any of these guys other than I know trucks. I've done this my whole life. And Ed Sealy knows trucks too, where he works, and he's verified this with you, with the council, with myself. And this just keeps going on and on and on. And my other point was, and I'm going to pursue it, we're not going to be getting grant money to pave roads, because the way I look at it is, how can you give me grant money to pave a road if you're going to allow trucks to tear it up just because you don't want to stop them? So why are we going to hire another policeman? Well, we hired 2 the other day, didn't we? They were sworn in. Is one of them like a truck guy that's going to actually do something? Because the fine for this can be up to $500. So if this job was done that I'm talking about, you might even have a tax rateable that's completely changed in this town. But once again, if you put your head in the sand like an ostrich and let it go and blame it on, we have too much of a drug problem, we got too much other stuff going on in the town, well, then you're going to keep on paying, and we're going to all be here, and you're going to be listening to this crap year after year after year after year. And now this is something for council, because I might be talking to another counselor. I've been telling these people this for how many years? I've dealt with on my corner. I live on Brunswick Avenue, Old Stage Road on the corner. I've been dealing with dog crap, which I've even got people fined for it. I've been dealing with garbage thrown out of the windows. The big smokers, because they can't put the crap in their car, they throw it out the window every day. So that you go through this time after time after time after time. So do I have a recourse to get a tax break? I've been living here since '77 dealing with this. I got cars on my front lawn. Then when I put in an insurance claim, I'm a scumbag because I put in an insurance claim against a woman who damaged my property. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, I think you know the answer. Okay. No, you're not going to get a tax break, but certainly, there are...
Maybe with the right lawyer, I will.
Well, I don't know about that. But really, your recourse... And it's really in every town you have it. If someone is creating some type of nuisance, we have nuisance ordinances, you can take them to court. It sounds to me like you've done it already.
Well, there was a police officer that was on this council, and he left. Was it Sasso?
No.
Well, anyway, there was one on this council, and he even said right to them, he says, I'll tell you one thing, if this was in East Brunswick, it would have been taken care of already. because that's how they did it. Just like I pointed out to the police, do you know this? When any heavy-duty truck comes down the road, there's laws. You have to have your name on it, you're supposed to have your phone number on it, and you're supposed to have the weight of that truck and the DOT regulations on it. But I see trucks brand new because they're buying them, and they just decide, I'm going to work. And I'll go through Spotswood because nothing's going to happen. The other sorry thing is that Helmetta had a bunch of cops. They're well-known for getting trucks traffic stopped. Did we hire any of them?
Well, and the answer, by the way, to the truck violations is really is enforcement. I mean, really, if that's something the council wants to speak to, public safety and step up enforcement on Old Stage Road or whatever roads, these problems are occurring on. Certainly, if they're fined and they have to come to the municipal court and pay a fine, that's going to discourage it.
And it hasn't happened just yet, but who knows? Maybe we'll be on the news one day. Because the other day, a chemical tanker came all the way down Old Stage Road from down by ShopRite all the way to Helmetta Boulevard. Who knows what was on that truck? If he had an accident or something leaked, who knows? Your property, your whatever, your streets that have all whatever it is on it. Just like there was a gasoline trailer going the opposite way. And where was he going? To the gas station at the end of Old Stage Road. But he was coming from Helmetta Boulevard. Because once again, I can go this way, it's shorter.
And by the way, East Brunswick has the same weight restrictions on Old Stage Road.
Correct.
And my experience, by the way, because I travel that road all the time, I think the East Brunswick side of Old Stage Road is actually worse than the Spotswood side. But, it's really just, it's an enforcement issue, and, then perhaps, a phone call has to be made to the police department.
All right, and then we got another issue, and I know, Ed, you could probably handle this because you did this one other time. You go down Vaughan Ave, you make a left, you go down Vaughan, there's the dead end against Memorial School. Well, now there's another guy making money on the side, brings a wrecker. DeFalco Wreckers out of Hamilton. So that's parked there overnight. Because once again, hey, I got to make some money, so I'll just bring a wrecker home and park it anywhere I want.
I'll take care of that.
And then one other thing, that I know there's ordinances, because I heard about this years ago. There's people in this town that move in now, and they decide they can park cars on the sidewalk. They can block your walk and everything else. I have two new neighbors that between leaving garbage out a week ahead of time and let it blow in the wind, or parking there, but then again, maybe I shouldn't be saying this because they do own BMWs. I only have a stinking Ford or a pickup, but the BMWs are allowed parked there the whole weekend because they're having some kind of shindig at their house. So is there anything that goes out that actually when somebody moves in or a new homeowner is paying their taxes or anything that you just give them a paper, hey, this is some of the rules of the town that you shouldn't be doing?
The answer to that is no. Okay, but there is a motor vehicle statute under Title 39 which prohibits parking not in a non-designated area. Certainly, you can't park your car on a sidewalk. I mean, so certainly, again, these are all enforcement issues, and certainly, if you're observing these things, you can contact the police.
I'm done with that. I'm like so sick of it. If you look on my street, there's people moving out already. They've had it with this garbage. It goes on and on and on. Just like Jackie and the rest of these people are saying, you come up here, you talk, and nothing gets done about it.
Cheryl Bass, Main Street, with Resolution 2020-55. This is the solid waste management with the recycling. Has there been a change in what is recyclable and what is not recyclable? I live in a condo. They sent out a new memo to everybody. And one of the things they say, the recyclable, it's stamped recyclable yogurt containers have to go in the garbage. That if you have food attached to the recyclable container, you can't put it in the recyclable bin.
You're supposed to wash them out.
Yeah, you can't
Right.
clean them out.
You just rinse them out and throw them in regular recycling. That's what I do.
Okay, at the condo, what has transpired is that now the garbage dumps are filling up and the recyclables are not as overflowing as they were. So they changed this around because the recyclables were being more filled up. more filled up, overflowing.
That's the condo's rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I
Has nothing to
know
do with
is
us.
They don't want you to put your recyclables in ShopRite bags anymore. Right. They want them in the garbage. But everything else, for us, goes the way it's supposed to go. You just got to rinse it out. Condo has their own rules.
Oh, okay. I'm wondering, with this resolution, does the price go up on the recycling? Because percentages are given. Each municipality participating in the authority's program shares 75% of the actual cost paid. And then it says the Borough of Spotswood shall be responsible for paying 100% of the cost of extra services. So is this resolution going to be a costly resolution that the price on recycling is going to be going up?
I don't know.
Cost of recycling is going up.
Okay.
Absolutely. I work in that industry. And it's a very dog-eat-dog industry because now, you were saying about cleaning containers.
Right.
A lot of these outfits now are told that when they go out and if they see your containers are not clean, they can reject your recycling.
Yeah.
Okay.
It becomes a big pain because now you got to take it back in the house or back in the backyard, clean it and put it back outside. As far as what's recyclable and what's not recyclable, I believe Middlesex County puts out a recycling chart that shows you the symbols on plastics that are recyclable and that are not recyclable. Yogurt containers are not recyclable. Butter containers, smaller stuff like that is not recyclable. The money items now, as I can read this list right here, basically is paper. And even paper's getting that bad. They don't want paper no more when it's wet. Well, it's kind of difficult when it rains. And cardboard, they don't want it if it's got food in it. It's got food stuff. It's getting very complicated because, unfortunately, the federal level on recycling only mandates that a user use 10% of recycled material in his product. Now, with that kind of a low number, we're obviously pulling in way more recyclables than we can use. So there's no market. And when you get no market, that's when they get really stringent on what they want and what they don't want. And I believe China, not too long ago, stopped buying all kinds of plastics from us. So it's really backlogging the industry. And recycling is never going to be a success, ever, until the federal government says 50% recycled materials have to be used. Because we just produce too much. Right now you go into Wawa, I don't know if you've noticed, Wawa's going to wooden stirrers. Pretty much the only thing they make plastic anymore is on lids. Because you can't make that out of wood, obviously. But everybody's trying to get away, and all these stores are trying to get away from plastic bags.
Paper straws, too.
Yes, it's a matter of using an item that's recyclable. Glass, I don't know why we ever got away from glass, because glass turns into sand and just turns back into glass all over again, endlessly. Plastic can only be recycled twice. And then it's garbage. Now what do we do with it? So it's a tough industry, and yes, it's probably going to keep going up, and until somebody does something, keep going up.
The gallons of water in the plastic, when you finish with the gallon container, it's all bulk. It's a big, bulky, empty container. And you know, this is what goes into the recyclable.
Step on it and squash it. For you, it might be a little difficult.
Yes.
But yeah. Unfortunately, there's no way around that, but that's a recyclable material.
Yeah.
The lid isn't.
No, the lid, they said, you have to throw out. The lid you have to throw out. Okay, now, Resolution 2020-57, one of your favorite items, water. Okay, North Jersey Wastewater Cooperative Pricing System. Membership shall be for a period ending February 28th, 2021, but no money is being decided here.
Because that's not what it's about. A co-op is when you go into something, purchase items for less of a price. Further in detail, like in this one, there's valves, there's pumps, there's motors, it's not really water, it's things to do with water.
Oh, okay.
So we go into a co-op to get a better price.
Okay.
Us and Highland Park and South River, we all need the same valve. Well, if we all buy 10 of each, we get a better number.
I see.
No, so you don't have to,
Okay.
after get so much amount of money, you don't have to be going out for bids and everything. They already did all that.
Okay, okay.
They
and-
shop for us.
Okay. And my last comment is, I think because of the turnout that you get here and the opinions expressed, I think that the council, the mayor, that it might be to the advantage of the town if a new business administrator is appointed to the business administrator position. That, I think, is what the town has been expressing.
Good evening, John Bouchard, 40 Maiden Lane. I was not going to get up tonight and talk about my street, but the Nixle alert kind of preempted my conversation. I was doing some homework. I've been meeting with my neighbors, talking about our street and trying to rally up some more attendance. It hasn't worked so far. Maiden Lane. So I did, in the meantime, take a look at the list that I was given, which was Brian, Carol, Rainbow, and
Sloan.
Sloan. I just have a question. When those, or do we give those streets to PSE&G for them to do work, or are they identifying where work is to be done?
Mr. Charlie, if I may. So I did reach out, once I found out about the Nixle, I did reach out to Bruce Koch, and he reached out to Kelly Sutter, who's the representative with PSE&G that we've been working with. And what Kelly said is that the only thing that may be happening is due to poor conditions of the roads, where PSE&G has done trench work, is their small hole contractor may be coming out to temporarily fix some of the worst sections or some of the worst patches on the streets. It shouldn't be a full mill and overlay or a full reconstruction. It should just be repairs to patches and to small areas of the trench that deteriorated due to the winter.
Sure. My question is really like before. So when those streets were determined to have work done by PSE&G, do we provide PSE&G with a list of streets to say, here, these streets are in bad shape, go do work there, or does PSE&G provide us information?
PSE&G turns around and decides which streets need to be changed, gas lines.
Okay.
John,
We have no
the
on that.
streets that were done, that were on the list of streets last year,
Yeah, we didn't, excuse me, one sec. We didn't know that Public Service was going to work on those streets till after we had already chosen those streets. So that's why Bruce was actually in contact with Public Service to say, okay, we had a grant, we were going to do these streets, can we work out a deal so you guys do a full street instead of half, and then we can relocate that money somewhere else? And it's still the same chunk of money, but it's being used at different locations if we can do it that way. But we chose those streets before Public Service told us where they were working.
so what were does anyone remember what streets were done with last year's money?
So
No, because we still have Brunswick, in which we're still requiring some property. And Adirondack is still requiring some other property.
Last year was Mady Avenue, but you're talking about PSE&G work?
No.
Just road work.
So Mady Avenue was last year. The last few years was actually different sections of Mady Avenue. That was a three-phase project.
And was that was PSE&G also involved in those streets?
So, well, PSE&G during the third phase of that project, PSE&G came in and said that they wanted to replace a section of their gas main, and what they did was they moved up in their schedule and they did their work before we came in behind them and did our milling and paving work.
Yeah, I mean, I took a walk over after, I was provided the list, and it seems like the street is in pretty rough condition, but it seems like it's in rough condition because of the digging and the work that's being done there, not necessarily because of the streets being in bad shape. And it just seems a little too convenient that those streets that were named, we already had named to be given. So I'm concerned that, are we really providing a list of what is bad in town, or are we providing a list of what PSE&G will cover? And I get covering costs and everything else.
The ones that PSE&G just dug up and everything like that are going to be doing, where they dug up, they're going to do half of it. They're going to pave half what they dug up area.
Yeah, the rule is if the street is 2 years old or newer, they have to go curb to curb. If the street is over 2 years or 3 years old, then they only do the section of the street that they tear up.
So, excuse me, I think I know what you're trying to say, John, but once again, we didn't have any input from public service and said, okay, they're gonna work here, we're choosing these streets. That's, if that's what you're trying to say. Is that what you're asking, if that was the case?
That's my concern.
Not that I know of, John.
Okay.
The Department of Public Works has given us a list of streets, along with the engineering outfit, and said, we believe that these are your worst streets in town. I can't speak for everybody on council, I believe they've all done it, but I got in my truck, and I drove, like when you came in, I went to your street, I drove to these streets, added a list that we had, and said, okay, if there was 10 streets, 20 streets, I don't know off the top of my head, I can't remember how many, John, but I said, okay, in my opinion, from worst to best on that list, here's 1 through 25. And then once they said how, we could get this much money, we all sat down and said, okay, these are our top 5 streets, 6 streets, however many numbers there are that we can get in that number, and that's how we made a decision as to what streets we were gonna put into that grant.
So they did have input from the town when they picked those.
Just from Public Works, knowing that they go out.
Is the one who creates the original list and gives it to us. Yep. And he.
Can I cut you off for a minute?
Okay.
The PSE&G roads and the roads that Charlie just spoke about are two different animals.
Right.
The roads that Charlie's talking about are roads that we choose to get paved. We look at them. They have nothing to do with PSE&G. PSE&G's roads are roads wherever they're putting new gas lines.
But
So
for
they
this,
choose them,
For
not
this
us.
time, though, it just so happened to be the same 4.
It might have been coincidental at best, because it wasn't picked that way.
Yeah, I mean, it is
we
literally the
picked- we-
same. The 4 streets on the list that you provided were Rainbow, Carroll, Bryan.
Right, we picked them before PSE&G decided to do all this work.
As the
Okay.
top.
Okay, that was from top down, okay? Then PSE&G all of a sudden came, they got this grant, this federal grant money and state grant money to replace all these lines, so they just started replacing all their lines. And they just,
Which they added to from the beginning.
Exactly. So they just started replacing them, okay, and that was it. That was one of the streets that they had to replace.
Okay.
It just happens that, by coincidence, that's what happened.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Elsie Branco Rivera, 46 Herbert. First, on to 495 Main. I just wanted to state, you guys had no issue with spending $10,000 to do a survey to see whether or not the property was available, suitable for purchase. So I don't see what the problem is with throwing out another $10,000 to see if it's suitable for a firehouse. Might as well just bite that bullet and figure it out. Oh. Anyway, it's that time of year again. I know the school is doing their budget, not tomorrow, the meeting afterwards, in case anybody would like to come, March 16th or something like that, whatever it is. So not the first Tuesday, the next Tuesday. When is the council doing their budget?
Wednesday?
Is the budget meeting?
Yes.
That lovely meeting where we get to sit here and be bored? I'm sorry.
It's Wednesday.
That's the actual budget meeting that we go through line by line thing?
Yep.
And when will the budget presentation be?
That I don't know.
Because you do a regular presentation.
It's not scheduled yet, because we may need more than one meeting.
To do the presentation?
No, to do the budget itself.
To do that?
Yes.
When do you have to submit that? Like, is there a time frame where you have to?
I believe it's the
Yeah, it's later in this, it's in the spring, yeah.
Define spring.
I don't even know if it's the first week of April. I think it might, yeah, it might be the end of April. Yeah,
So sometime middle of April is when you have.
might even be the end of April, because the budget has to be in, obviously, it has to be in because then you have to deal with the, your tax year, which starts July 1st, so.
Do you have a date where you have to submit it to the state?
Yeah, that's
the April date?
Yeah.
And is that before or after you have to present it to the public?
No, that's all done before, that's all done beforehand, yeah.
So we'll have our budget meeting, the exciting one, on March 4th.
Yes.
And if necessary, there's going to be another date.
Then another one.
Right, so.
And then you present to the public, and then you submit to the state. Thank you.
Stan Pepka, 21 Rainbow Lane. I'm just curious where you got the information about we're going to be paved tomorrow, or
That was
That-
Nixle.
A Nixle on your phone, they send you like an email blast or text message blast. So I didn't even open mine up yet, but yeah, it says.
I never get anything like that.
You have
You have to sign up for it.
To sign up for Nixle.
Oh,
If you sign up for Nixle, you get the text messages, and you can also get the email alert.
Do you have
People
the
know that.
instructions on how to do that?
How many people know about that?
It's been out there for the longest time.
Several years now.
Yeah, and you'll receive them from other towns as well.
It's also on it's also on the website how to get onto it.
Oh, okay.
You subscribe to Spotswood, Monroe, East Brunswick, so that, you know,
All
everything
right.
around us.
All right, so
It's on the
aside
website
from
there,
that, so now, if they're going to pave tomorrow, now we've been on our street for 47 years, 48 years, it's never been paved. So that means they're just going to pave the portion of the street that's going to be the opposite of my house.
They're just gonna fill in the hole that they dug out. That's it.
So we can come in and go out.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
You know,
well, you won't be able to until they
yeah,
get done
no.
with that.
By 7 in the morning, they want you off your street.
Right.
If you want to go anywhere that day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. you have to go park
whole
somewhere
street.
else. All of you guys, Sloan, Charles, everybody. You're gonna
'cause I
have to
mean,
go
I-
to Jackson.
I know, I don't know if some of my neighbors know that either, so they're gonna, if anything, but the funny thing is, they park their cars down they park all their equipment on Charles Street.
Right.
But nobody ever walks up to tell us when they're gonna do something besides that. I mean, it would be a courtesy, you're right there, you know, instead of, well, what's gonna happen tomorrow, all right. Okay, thank you.
I want to say something about the guys who got me.
Hopefully the last one, Lowell Miller, 27 Shemansky. This is more of a public service announcement for those in the audience that do not know. I'm here to announce the Panini Bistro is open on Snow Hill.
Fantastic food.
It's been open for a week. The food is tremendous. They're working through some things with timing, but I anticipate they'll be able to sort that out in the next week or two. So I encourage everyone to check it out. Food is tremendous.
We already ate there.
Yes.
Yeah. I've ate there about 5 times already, so.
I had it for breakfast yesterday.
All right, thank you very much.
I just want to ask, they said with the gasoline tax, that they raised the gasoline tax, that was going to be to help fix up the roads. And here, everybody's talking about fixing up the roads. The state has been collecting the gasoline tax. We've been paying the gasoline tax. Is there any money coming in from the state for the roads?
If you read on the agendas and everything, you see that on there, you see that we get grants for the roads and everything like that.
Okay.
Again, it depends on what the state gives us.
Okay.
And that's what we have to go by.
How much we can do.
Our roads.
Okay.
Just so you know, the gasoline tax is controlled by 4 people. That's who decides where the money goes.
Gary Wallace, 277 Brunswick Avenue. I just have a question about the paving. Like Brunswick Avenue is going to be half paved, right? I understand that, right?
Wherever they're digging,
Okay,
yes.
wherever they're digging. How about the sidewalk that they ripped up and they put a black patch on? Is that going to be re-cemented?
Yeah, because that's
Okay,
what they're.
okay. I just want to know that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to say something.
Wait until we close the public, wait until we close the public session.
I would like to.
Make a motion to close the public session.
Second. Hang on, don't adjourn yet.
All in favor?
Hold on.
You made a motion to close the public. Who did it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hang on 1 second, John. You have something you want?
Yeah, I want to say, Old Stage Road. When would we come down to, they're going to get to that road? You know, research, yeah, the engineer, yeah.
Say that again, John?
Old Stage Road, when would they get to it, pave it up, you know, what, both sides, between each Brunswick and us?
I thought they were supposed to start on Friday.
I'm not sure about their schedule of when they were going to start.
They're done over there, right? They're done. The vendors are all done, they're out of there now, right? I don't see nobody around.
Yeah, but they haven't done any of their final paving in a lot of streets because of the weather.
I mean, that street right there, that's a main go.
Right.
They should get to that street right there. They gotta get, that's a bad, you know that, come on.
John, but the thing is, if the plants
I
are not
drive on that
open-
damn thing, come on, please. I have a junk pretty soon. They gotta fix, you gotta get onto their road.
I spoke to the chief the other day, and he told me that they were supposed to start on Friday.
Okay.
That's what he told me. Whether that
Gotta
happened or
fix that
not,
thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what PSE&G's schedule is for
Right.
coming back and doing Old Stage Road.
We're looking at seeing when it's going to be,
In
John.
bad shape. No, you can't be, that's a bad, I can see a little street, I understand that. This is the main, this road gets, like the man, that fellow said right there. He knows, and I know it too. We all know it practically. So, that's gotta be done. I mean, really, forthwith. Jesus.
Right.
Play games, you gotta fix
Make a
it.
motion to adjourn?
Second it.
Fix
All in
it up,
favor?
fix it up.
Sorry, I had to jump off.
You gotta fix it up.